Login accepted.
All right, good evening. Thanks for joining me at the end of the day. I hope you had a great first day of the conference. My name is Marit van Dijk, and I'll be talking to you about IntelliJ IDEA tips and tricks. And this will be my only slide. We're going to look at the IDE. So first of all, while I generally use the dark theme when I'm coding at home so that the light is not too bright and hurts my eyes, generally I like to use a light theme when presenting because it's easier to see in the room. So we can go for the light theme or the light theme with a light header. But we have other themes that you can use. There's a high contrast theme, which can be useful if you're coding in pitch black dark, or if you have any kind of visual impairment where this helps you. Classic Darkula theme. And if that's not enough, you can get more themes from the marketplace. So in this case, I'll press 3 to go with the light theme with a light header. And there are other things that you can do in this switcher, or the proper feature name is Quick Switch Scheme, and I bet they didn't think of the developer advocates when they named that. So we can also change the view mode here, so we could go to presentation mode, or back out of that. I don't know what happened there. We can zoom in the IDE. So can you all see this properly in the back? Yes? Okay, thank you. This still okay? Yes? Okay, thank you. All right. While we generally do a lot of reading code in the IDE, and I have a whole talk on that, let's write some code today. So I'll switch to the main class, and we'll need a main method. We have a new feature that was introduced in the last release called full-line code completion, which will write the whole main method for us. So we could tab to accept that, or we can use live templates like PSVM for public static void main, which will expand into the main method. Or if you don't want to remember those, you can type main, which will do the same. So these are some of the quick ways that you can write some code. So we'll write some code to read lines from a file, and we'll use buffered reader. Did you know that you can use camel casing for the completion? Anybody who didn't know that? Some people, yay. So you learned something new today. We'll want to name the variable. IntelliJ IDEA will suggest names based on the technical context. If you're using JetBrains AI Assistant, that will also suggest AI-generated names, which sometimes also looks at, for example, the values that you have in a list or additional information about your code. So we'll create a new buffered reader using a file reader and a file. And my file is called lines.txt. Now, we have some red underlined code, which means that currently our code does not compile. Does anybody know how we can fix this? Yes. So we need to use F2 to go back, or to go to the next error in our file. And now we can use Alt-Enter to fix this error. And that will add the checked exception to the method. Once we've cycled through all of the errors in our file, you can see here that there aren't currently any more errors, but there are warnings. So now we can cycle through our code again to fix the warnings using Alt-Enter. Once we read the lines from the file, we'll want to, yes, we'll also want to use string line at some point, but we'll want to assign them to a collection. I'll use an array list of strings, and we'll want to assign that to a variable. We can move our cursor back to the start of the line, or we can use a refactoring to extract a variable and assign this to a variable. There's the AI assistant showing up with some naming. So here we can create a name for our variable, but you might also see this little cog, which gives us additional options. And we can use Option-Shift-O to open those options. So we could declare the variable as a final or as a var type. I could use my mouse to check these boxes, but I prefer to use my mouse as little as possible. So if I press the Option key, I don't know if you can tell, but the F and the V in final and var are now underlined, which means that I can actually type those keys to check those boxes. And now it changed my declared type to array list, which is actually not what I want. So I can use Shift to go back, Shift-Tab, and select list again. So we'll declare a list of strings. We'll want to also create a variable line, and we'll want to loop over the lines. So we'll use line equals, and we're using the buffered reader to read the lines. If we know the API of buffered reader, we know that we want to use the method readLine, and we can actually type r.r to find reader.readLine. If we didn't know the API for buffered reader, you know that you can use the variable and then a dot to see what methods you can apply to that variable. We'll want to make sure that they are not null. And what happened here is that the font that I'm using, which is JetBrains Mono, has ligatures. And you can turn them on in the settings. You can enable ligatures, and if you do that and you use a font that has ligatures, it will show up as ligatures in your code. If not, then it will just show the ASCII characters, which in this case is !equals. Let's complete that statement. So again, we have a squiggly red line. Our code does not compile. We can use Shift F2 to go back to the previous error and use Alt-Enter to fix that for us. We'll want to add those lines to our collection of strings. So we'll add the line, and we need to add a semicolon to the end of this statement. We can use complete statement again, but if we type the semicolon here, IntelliJ IDEA will actually end it to put it at the end of the line because that's the only place that the code will compile. We'll want to make sure that we're not reading any blank lines. So we can use surround with to select a statement surrounding this. We can use our arrow keys and enter to select anything that we want from this list, or we can press the number for the relevant option. And we'll want to make sure that the line is not blank or empty. If we select from this list using enter, we'll have to put in an exclamation mark because we want to negate this statement. We want to say if the line is not blank. But we can also type an exclamation mark now, and that will negate the statement. And after reading all of the lines, we'll want to close the reader. Next, we might want to do something with the lines that we've read. Often we might need to convert from one collection to another, or we might want to convert this collection to an array. We can use live templates again. So we can use toArray. And we can, of course, again use the refactoring to assign this to a variable, or we can use postfix completion and assign this to a variable. If if you type a dot, you get all of the options that you can apply to this variable or expression. And at the end of the line, you can use arrow up to go to the end of the line, by the way, or arrow down to go back to the front of the line. At the end of the line, you'll see all of the postfix completion that you can use. So we'll use var to create a variable. If we wanted to do this the other way around, say we know that we want to create an array, we can also use type save completion, and IntelliJ IDEA will add a value of the correct type. In this case, the only string array that we have are args. And if we want more options, we can use this. We should be able to use it twice, which it doesn't do at the moment. So there might be an error in my code somewhere. Anyway, normally this should complete, yeah, there it is. The presentation assistant was in the way. So if we type it twice, we get additional options. And if we type it 3 times, we get even more options that we can try. What if we want to iterate over the code or over the collection instead? We can use iter. IntelliJ IDEA will automatically fix the formatting for you if you're typing your code in the editor. Otherwise, there's a shortcut, obviously, to fix the formatting. So for strings, we can use another live template as out to print them to system out. If you want to know what live templates are available, you can use a shortcut to show you all of the live templates if you want to know what the options are, and you can actually search them to filter down the options that you want. So another option that we might have is to print a value. In this option, in this instance, we have the option to print a string or a line, and if we change the variable, then the string associated will also change. And we can print lots of useful stuff this way. For example, we can print out the name of the current method, or we can print out the parameter names. And this gives us lots of useful ways to print stuff. We can, of course, create our own live templates. If we use, now you're in the way again, go away. So if we use Shift, we can search everywhere. So we can search our code, we can search actions, we can even search settings. So for example, if we want to lose our tabs, I'll show you that in a minute, but let's first look at live templates. Save as live template, Devoxx Poland. And let's say we want to name the variable in our live template. We want to say where the cursor should end up once we filled all of the fields in the live template. And we want to use a command inside our live template. And we can edit the variables to say, for example, that the command that it should use is to use completion. So now we could use this live template to do basically the same thing we already did, like so. Let's see, we've written some code that should run. Let's see that it does. Okay, we still print out the main method and the arguments and the list of strings. So we have working code. Let's remove these. So now that we have working code, we might want to see if there are any other changes that we can make to this code, maybe write in the style that we're used to in this decade. And collapse this enhanced for loop with a for each, and use try Alt-Enter again to change this to a stream. Use F2 to go here and replace this with toList. We might want to join the list of strings declaration with the assignment. We can, of course, delete the characters, or we can use join to join them together. And then we can use a try with resources on the buffered reader and remove the redundant close. We might want to extract this into a method. So we can use a refactoring for that. Read lines from file. Yes, thank you, AI Assistant. That's exactly what I wanted. Saves me some typing. We might want to return here instead, meaning we no longer need this. Oh. Or this. And now we have some fairly neat code. Okay, so what if we had multiple filters? Let me rename filter or line into a slightly shorter name, because we're going to duplicate some filters. And change them to different filters. So let's say if line starts with A and length is bigger than 3. As mentioned, if we want to change some settings, we can use search everywhere. So for example, if we want to change the tab placement to none, we can do so from here. Or if we want to wrap because our line got too long, we can do so here. So now we have several filters. If we want to debug this chain of commands, we can add a breakpoint and run our code through the debugger. As you notice, it automatically, IntelliJ IDEA automatically adds Lambda breakpoints, but those are not super useful if you're cycling through this code, because it will show you the values of variables at that point in the code. Instead, we can use trace current stream chain, which sometimes doesn't like me. Let me try that again. There we go. So we can use trace current stream chain and see what the effect is of each filter. So if we hover over it, we see exactly which filter we're applying. And then we can click each one to see what the result is of that filter. And we can see the filtering of our list, which is much more useful than cycling through it using the debugger. Let me get rid of that breakpoint again. This isn't very nice code to read because it's chaining lots of methods in a very long line. So let's see if we can fix that. We can select all occurrences, and this will also duplicate the caret. So now we have multiple carets, and we can use them to place all of these filters below each other. Press escape to go back to using one caret. Now we can add additional operations like assign line to a new user, for example. Alternatively, we can use a method reference. We can also map it back to a string. And as you can see, we now see, we get inlay hints to show us what the type is of each line. If we didn't have that information, we can also pull that up by getting the type information. So if you want to know what the return type is of an expression, you can pull up that information. There are other ways that we can pull up information about the code that we're trying to read, like using the quick documentation. Yeah, so now we have some code that filters the lines of our file. I still have about 10 minutes, I see, so should I show you some more AI assistant stuff? Thank you for the second row. Okay, so obviously we can use AI assistant to chat with, so we can ask it questions like, can you tell me a joke? And it should tell me no, because it's programmed to only talk about programming. Today it's taking a while. Of course, I tempted the demo gods. Anyway. No, no, it's not. So, yeah. Anyway, other things that I can show you. Yeah, so I removed the tabs, which makes it a little bit more difficult to navigate. So I'll show you some interesting navigation. So you can use recent files to navigate to, obviously, recent files. But you can also use it to navigate to any of your windows. So some of the windows have shortcuts that you can use to open them. For example, I use the project tool window shortcut a lot, or the Git shortcut a lot. Some don't have shortcuts, but you can still open them from here. And you can also search here if you want to open specific tool windows. Another useful navigation is recent files and locations, and you can use that also to navigate to specific locations. Another way is that you can, of course, this file is fairly short, but we can pull up the structure of a file, and we can use that to navigate, which is more useful if you have a longer file. As mentioned, we can use shortcuts to to open windows and to close them again. You might have noticed that we have AI actions in the editor as well. Unfortunately, the connection is not good enough to work at the moment, but we have, apart from being able to generate code, we have lots of functions on working with existing code, like explain code, suggest refactoring, find problems, write documentation, and even generate unit tests, which can be super useful. I've shown you some refactoring tips. If you don't know all of the shortcuts for specific refactorings, you can use a shortcut to pull up different types of refactorings that you can use. And I've already shown you earlier today ways to deal with dependencies. Yeah, I'm upset that AI Assistant is not working for me. So let's try again. There we go. So it will tell us that it's not able to tell us a joke, but if we edit it to ask, can you tell me a programming joke? Pray to the network gods. No pressure. Ah! Yay. Of course, we can ask it serious questions like, can you do a quick sort for me? You can then continue the conversation. Say it gives you the quick sort in Java, but you want it in Kotlin. You say, in Kotlin, please, because always be nice to our AI overlords before they take over. Some other places where we can use AI Assistant is in the commit window. We can generate a commit message for the changes that we've already done, which is super useful. But if you think that this is too wordy, you can also specify how you want the commit message to look. So, for example, say, use max 10 words. And try that again. And now we get a shorter commit message. So if you want to use conventional commits, if you want to write them in Polish, you can change the prompt message for how to generate the commit message. Another thing that is very useful is if we have our Git history, we can, of course, look at the diff for a particular change. In this case, only a class was added, so there's no diff view. Or we can ask AI Assistant to explain this commit to us, and it will open a new chat and explain the commit to us. So if you have a commit that changes lots of files, you can still look at all of the changes in all of the files, but you can also ask AI Assistant to give you a summary of what happened in that commit. Another really useful thing is you can ask it to explain regular expressions. Let me see if it will write some code for us. I'll switch to a different project. Use regex to check that pet name is alphanumeric. This will open a diff view where it will start generating the code. Pray to the network gods for me. So in this case, it generates import statements, which we don't want, but we can, when it's done generating, we can specify without import statements, please. We're working on getting it to generate in multiple places so that it will generate the code, but also generate relevant import statements at the top. It's using string utils, which I wouldn't want, but let's accept that for now. So now we have a regex, and here we can ask AI Assistant to explain this regex to us, which is super useful. I mean, I don't know how good you are with regex, but I'm not at all. There's the classic XKCD of, you know, I used regex and now I have two problems. So there's that. But also, in case you, hang on, didn't know, we have the functionality which has been there for a while, not AI Assistant. We can check a regex. So we can check that the name of my cat is Pepper. That satisfies this regular expression. If I capitalize it, that also works. If I add a number, that works. But if I add different characters, that doesn't work. So check your regex if you want to try out some examples of regex. That's just a fun feature. I think that's all for me for today. I know I'm running a little bit short, but I don't want to fight the network gods anymore. So if you do have other questions or you want to find some more information, I listed some additional resources. If you want more tips, tricks, tutorials, and whatnot, you can go to the website. You can go to the documentation if you want all of the details for particular features. We have a blog where we write about lots of Java-related stuff, as well as all of the new releases, new EAPs, and new features that we release. We have a guide that contains tutorials and tips. We have a YouTube channel where we create videos, like and subscribe, thanks. And we have a Twitter account where we will tell you all of these things, new releases, links to blog posts, videos, as well as do small tips and tricks for little features like, for example, the regex checker that I just showed you. And if you want to connect with me, you can go to my website, which has all of my socials. So, yeah, thanks.